Yahoy matey, and welcome to the Orange Blossom Special Show. My name is Olivia. We have a new captain of the ship. His name is Donald Trump, who is the new president of the United States. Some like to call him Donald Duck. I like to call him Donald the Diva. Love him or hate him, he's a very memeable president. So we have an interesting 4 years coming up. With that, we're going to get started with today's video. Thank you for choosing to listen to this, watch this. Make sure you either hit that follow, subscribe button wherever you are at. So I live in Tampa. We have this thing coming up this weekend. It is called Gasparilla. Everyone gets drunk, dresses up like pirates. City turns into open container. Old men are looking for their pirate booty. And it's when you learn who in society should walk the plank and get off the ship. And some people this past week are like, get me off this ship already, because Donald Duck or Donald Trump is president and it's snowing in Florida. And Gasparilla is coming up. So it is just very, I guess you could say, chaotic energy this week in Tampa. I really don't know how else to explain it, because people just don't generally know how to act here when it gets cold. Just like people in New York don't know how to act when it gets hotter than like 90 degrees. We're all kind of crazy. But the difference is that Florida has this thing called the Florida man, because Florida in itself is a very chaotic state. I don't know if it's because people like Jose Gaspar just jumped into the ocean and that was the end of them. And so maybe we just have all of this pirate energy that's hanging around in the ocean that somehow gets onto the land of Florida. But either way, Floridians are here for a fun time, not a long time. Gasparilla is a pretty good example of that, because it's like a month-long thing. There's ships. Again, the whole city of Tampa just parties for the weekend. Some stuff started yesterday. Today's Friday. Tomorrow is like the big day. So it is definitely something you should be aware of if you are moving to Tampa. And the other aspect that you should know if you are planning on moving to Tampa or you're coming to Florida, especially in the month of January, is you have to plan for it to be cold and warm. It can be 70, 80 degrees and it can be in the 50s. And our winter is like most other people's fall, where it can go from being 40 degrees to 80 degrees in the same day. So that is something you have to plan for. But it's been pretty chilly. Like it's been getting down into the 30s here. We were just a couple degrees away from having snow. So again, chaotic energy, because I wouldn't know how to act either if it was my first time seeing snow. And we got people on kayaks, we got people on skateboards trying to ski or snowboard in Florida, and that's just very much a Floridian thing. Now, with that being said, Florida obviously is a red state, so some people are very excited that Trump is in office. Some people are not so excited that Trump is in office. I know he's been signing a bunch of executive orders, but these are the executive orders that I have not seen Trump sign that I think should be signed. The one thing is we need to all band together and we need to dismantle Ticketmaster, okay? I am tired of having to spend a third of my ticket price on random fees that are just price gouging from Ticketmaster and these venues. Because the thing is a lot of these ticket prices, like you can opt out of, I think is like the dynamic pricing, but it still doesn't take away the fact that these venues are still going to slap a $50 fee on a $100 ticket. And I understand venues and everything need to make money, but it's just gotten to the point where it's just greed, and some parts of corporate America obviously need to be dismantled. And parents would be like, but tickets were expensive back then. People were spending like $8,000 for a floor ticket to see Taylor Swift. Like, it is just absolutely insane. Okay. So Ticketmaster needs to be dismantled. The second thing is we need to get back to being an honest country. I am sick of the fact that beer is served half the time. I don't say it's warm, but men are spending their hard-earned money on beer that isn't even that cold, and they're spending more. And beer used to be cheap. Some places, we live in Florida, they can't upsell for alcohol, but a beer should not be more than $8. Okay? We need to like cap beer prices at like $5. All right? Because the hard-working people of this country deserve to have cheap beer. They deserved to bust their butt and be able to go to the bar and not have to worry about busting their bank, okay? And also, I'm sick and tired of going to places and spending $30 on chicken wings. Make chicken wings cheap again. We know how to grow chickens. What is going on in this country? I know it's inflation, but still, we used to be an honest country where you used to be able to get a bucket of beer for $5. Wings would be $5, and you and the boys could go eat for cheap. And this is the one thing my dad would always say is he's like, happy hour isn't like it used to be. He's like, I used to be able to take my whole office out and it would be like, oh, we would only spend a couple $100. He's like, now that tab would be a couple $1,000. We are not in an honest country anymore. And I don't know if Donald Trump will make booze cheap again, but give me at least a $10. I don't want to spend $30 on a martini, okay? New York, I understand, you know, you got bills to pay. But like in Florida, why am I spending the same amount of money on a martini in Florida as New York? I don't care if you're some fancy hip restaurant. Half the time, your guys' food sucks. I'm not here to name names, but there is a place in Tampa that opened that is charging people $30 for appetizers that they're making on hot plates. They don't even have a commercial. You don't have to have like a full commercial kitchen, but I need you to have a kitchen. I need you to have like some type of stovetop or something. Because some people might be like, oh, it's fine. No, the inner like gross person or cook in me or food sanitation person in me is like, why are you charging this amount of money for food you're not even making on a real stove? That weird, it freaks me out. You want to be some hip place, you want to charge people $20 for cocktails where the baristas can't even be bothered to help you for a cocktail that is below par. And here is the thing about Tampa, and people will be like, Olivia, it's not New York. And I know that it's not New York. The issue though is that you have these new restaurants that are coming in and they're charging people New York prices for food that is not New York quality food, for food that is not that great, for restaurants that are giving people food poisoning, and people want to be happy with it. And I'm like, nah. And here is the thing why I feel like at the end of the day, yes, it's nice to be able to go to a steakhouse. Yes, it's nice to be able to go and have a nice dinner every once in a while. But I feel like me and my dad, we are like the divey places because that's usually where you're going to get the best food. It's usually where you're going to get the bang for your buck. And it's usually, weirdly enough, where you're going to get the best service. And again, I understand you have to expect different things in different types of environments. All I'm saying is that if you're going to be snooty, I better be eating one of the best meals I've ever had in my life. And coincidentally, the best meals that I've had in my life have been at the places where the restaurants and bars emphasize quality service. The shittiest food that I've ever had have been at places where it was not like that. And I don't know what is up with like food safety in Tampa, but I've gotten food poisoning here at probably at least 5 different places. So you need to exercise with caution. And so when people are like, have you tried this restaurant? Have you done this? I'm like, listen, I've tried a bunch of restaurants. At this point, I stick to the places that I know are not going to get me sick. I stick to the places that I know are going to deliver on their service and on their quality. Because some of these restaurant owners in here are out of their mind. And it's like, I feel like there's a different caliber of restaurant managers that come from like the Northeast versus coming from the South. I think the issue with Tampa is that we are a growing city, and because of that, there's so much opportunity for business to come here. And then places come here and they think they can do whatever they want. Like, there was a bagel shop that opened. It was the worst bagel I've ever had in my entire life. The service was absolute crap, and I spent more on a bagel there than I would have getting bagels for me and my friends in New York. It was absolutely insane. There's other bagel places in St. Pete's Bagels, I believe is the name of it, and they're like, we don't claim to be a New York bagel shop. And I'm like, that's fine, because your bagels are still good. The breakfast sandwich is absolutely fire. The coffee is absolutely fire. And I feel like they do a good job of getting your stuff relatively quickly. And I'm fine with going to a place that's like, we're not a New York bagel place, we're just here to make bagels. Babes, that's perfectly fine. You still eat. But don't claim to be like a New York bagel spot. Don't claim to be the best of the best. And then not only not be the best of the best, you're like the worst of the worst. You are like at the bottom of the totem pole. And I think in one way, like, the food scene in Tampa is getting a little bit better. But I think as Tampa starts to grow, I'm hoping that the crappy places will skedaddle on out and the new places will come in. And again, you have to like pick and choose, I feel like, where you live. I come from a very small town in upstate New York, so the food options there were limited, but the thing is I feel like the food quality was very, very good. And things are going to be made differently upstate than they are in Florida because of climate, because of everything else that goes into it. But I have come across some of the most, I don't even say horrendous, but I have literally met some of like the rudest restaurant managers I've met in my life here in Tampa, and I've also met some of the best. And I feel like I have to say this all the time to people, but it's like, if you move to a city like Tampa that's growing, there's always going to be a lot of people that act like they're the big fish in the small pond, but that pond is eventually going to get bigger. And I just think that's just like a cultural difference. It's like, you are Jose Gaspar and you are the king of your castle. And then the U.S. Navy comes along with a bigger ship and bigger people. And you're like, ooh, time for me to go. Time for me to hop in the ocean. Don't ever let your pride get in the way, kids, of you achieving your goals. And be open to collaboration. The good thing, though, I feel like about the hurricanes is it kind of weeds out the bad places that shouldn't be there. And I'm like, thank God that place closed, because that place was horrendous. And also helps keep the better businesses and open. But also, time is money. That might be a bad thing to say, but I'm like, I'm not here to tell a lie. I'm here to tell you the truth. And the truth is that you're going to come across some fantastic food places in Tampa, and the truth is you will also come across some of the worst places in Tampa. But you know what? Your spot is your spot, and that is your spot for a reason. You might have the best experience somewhere, and I might have the worst experience, and we can agree to disagree on the restaurants to go to. But I will say the surprising thing is that I have found good Chinese food places here. The thing I freaking do love about the food scene in Tampa is that sushi here is good, and it's like relatively affordable compared to New York. Like, I found what I thought was a relatively affordable sushi spot in my old neighborhood in Brooklyn, and a sushi roll there was still more expensive than getting like a whole sushi meal here in Tampa. So thank God for that. So I will say Tampa, they knock it out of the water in the seafood department. I think some of the bars here are fantastic, but I do think we all could work on our attitudes a little bit in terms of restaurant management. And I think that if you are a city like Tampa, why am I spending $20 for a cocktail when a cocktail in New York is $20? And I know that the owners in New York are spending much more money on paying people and on real estate in New York. But again, to each his own. To each his own. Okay? So Tampa's very, very different. But the other thing too, and this is the executive order that needs to be signed in freaking Tampa, is you are not allowed to charge more than $7 for an iced coffee if your coffee sucks. The thing about being in a conservative city, Tampa, even though I think it's like liberal, it's still, there's a lot of coffee shop owners that are obviously conservative because they're businessmen in Tampa. St. Pete is very liberal, I would say more so than Tampa, and St. Pete's coffee is amazing, and I don't think that is a coincidence. I really don't, because I have the worst coffee I've ever had in my life has been in Tampa. I am so serious. Actually, no. There was one place, I think in Fort Myers or somewhere else that I went, that was the worst coffee. It was so bad, you guys. It was so bad. I took 2 sips of it and I looked at my friend and she's like, I know that's a wrong color coffee. And I'm like, I know it's a wrong color too. And I threw it out. I was like, I can't even drink this. I will pretty much drink any type of coffee you give me. Okay. If you took like Maxwell Coffee House and gave me an IV with it, I would be like, all right, maybe even Folgers. Do you know how bad a coffee has to be for me to throw it out? It's literally tastes worse than piss, okay? It tastes worse than piss. And the thing is it's like, I obviously am very honed on supporting small businesses, but you gotta meet people where they're at. Like, you have to be willing to give people a good product or good service in order to entice them to go to your shop and not go to Starbucks or Dunkin' just based off of familiarity. The thing is that there are places in Tampa that I have literally paid $8 for like a drip coffee, and it was the worst coffee I've ever had. And I'm not here to name names because it's like sometimes I've gone to these places and I've gotten good coffee, but all I'm going to say is that if I were to look at the 5 worst coffees I've ever had in my entire life, they're all in Florida. One is the one I think in Fort Myers or whatever it is. The other 4 have all been in Tampa. And I am not, like, I wish I was kidding about that. So if you are a coffee fiend and you plan on moving to Tampa, you need to know that the good coffee is not in Tampa. It is in St. Pete. And people will be like, well, there's other places in downtown. The issue is that in order to get a good coffee, you have to spend $8 on a coffee. And that should be illegal. That, for me, makes me want to take that coffee and just throw it at you because you're being like Starbucks and you're practicing corporate greed. Give people a quality service. Give people a quality product. Stop price gouging on everyone. I know how much it costs to source coffee. I have been on coffee farms in Guatemala. I know how much they are paying their workers, and I know how much you are getting those coffee beans for. I am telling you for a fact, you are not, it's not costing you $7 to make that coffee. It's not. Especially in Florida where the minimum wage is lower than everywhere else. It's not. And the thing about New York is competition keeps it healthy. So maybe I'll open up a coffee shop. I don't freaking know. Maybe I'll convince my friends to open up a coffee shop. I don't know. But it is just below par. And when I'm like, yeah, I low key 90% of the time either just go to Wawa or Starbucks, it's because I know what I'm getting when I go to those places. And I just can't justify in my little girly pop brain gambling $8 for a coffee that could possibly be crap that I'm going to want to throw out. But again, St. Pete has fantastic coffee. Orlando has amazing coffee. It's just the fact that people price gouge you for quality things here. And that needs to be an executive order. Keeping it $7 or $5. If your coffee is absolute dog crap, I don't want to spend more than $3 on it. I don't want to spend more than $3 on a coffee that's mid. That's a disgrace. Throw the coffee shop away. But again, I know Trump said that there are only two genders. I want my barista to not be, I don't want a barista that doesn't use pronouns. I want my barista to have pronouns. I want the coffee shop to be a Bernie Sanders supporter. And I want to see one of those coexist stickers in the coffee shop. I want to see you have coffee that has CBD or THC in it and psychedelic pictures on the walls, because those are the coffee shops where you know it's going to eat. There's like a super liberal, I don't know what the name of it, but there's like a super liberal coffee shop that is in Ybor, which like is Tampa, but it's, I guess, East Tampa. I mean, it's not far from downtown, but Ybor is interesting in itself. But they have all of the stickers on the walls. They have all the liberal stickers that you could possibly imagine. That is my safe. If I was like, what is the safest coffee shop in terms of, I know it's going to be fantastic, it's going to be that shop. They have never let me down. The other coffee shops I've gone to, it's always been like hit or miss, but the liberal coffee shops, we need each other, okay? We need each other. You need your conservative friends for the boat. You need your liberal friends for the coffee for the boat, okay? That is how we coexist. That is how the world goes around and around. But me and my dad, we always agreed on the fact that like you have to have your coffee in the morning, and life's too short to drink crappy coffee. Life is too short not to have a third cup of coffee. And with that being said, what do you think I'm about to go do? Go to a coffee shop that's hopefully owned by liberals in St. Pete and actually have a latte that I will enjoy. So thank you for listening to me on the internet. As always, make sure you either hit that follow or subscribe button. With that being said, have fun, stay warm. May your coffee be warm. Oh my gosh. I don't even know what else I'm going with that. So with that being said, bye. I will see you guys on the next episode.